Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Fawad Alavi, and because you asked me a lot of questions about how to implement Refresh Token for JWT authentication, I'm going to show you how to do that. Then stay tuned. I have a project here. It is using JWT for its authentication and authorization. Let's see the structure of the project, and after that we can have a deep dive into how to implement Refresh Token. Injecting a connection string here, telling the ASP.NET Engine that I am using ASP.NET identity for storing the password and username related informations using identity user and identity role. I set everything to false because I'm going to use 123 as the password. Here we said that we are going to use JWT Bearer default scheme for creating authentication and authorization. And we are just reading a key, one static key from the app setting.json file and validate the token. You can see here that I have the key here. We have issuer audience here, but here I'm not validating them. Let me go to the controllers. I have two controllers, one auth controller. In the auth controller, I have two methods, one for registering a user and another one for logging in. And they are using the out service that I have. For the out service, we have the login method. It is accepting the user. If I check the user has just, let me check it. It has just username and password. It is receiving this information from the client and then send it to the out controller.login. In the login, first we check if a user with this username exists in our ASP.NET identity or not. If the user doesn't exist, or if the password is not correct, we just return the response. What is the response model that we have here? The response model has two properties, is logged in and JWT token. By default is logged in is equal false. Then when we return it here without changing it, it means that it is not logged in. But otherwise, we are going to change it to true and generate a JSON web token and place it in JWT token. Let's see how I'm doing that. We are just setting some claims, username as a name and admin as their role. We are just getting the key from the application.json, creating the security key, creating the signing credential, and then create the security token. And out of that, we can write one JSON web token. I have 5 videos about authentication and authorization and one dedicated video about how to use JSON web token. If you are not familiar with JSON web token and how authentication and authorization works in ASP.NET Core, please review them. The concept that I taught you there is applicable for .NET Core 5, 6, 7, and 8 because there are some concepts. There is no change. There's almost no change in these concepts, and you can apply them on all frameworks. Now that we have a logged in user, let me go back to the out controller. Based on the login result, if the login is successful, we are returning OK login result. Otherwise, I'm returning unauthorized. By default, it is better to return OK if it is authenticated, unauthorized if it is not authenticated correctly, and return internal server error or bad request if something goes wrong. I'm not checking it here, but for the real projects, do not forget to check these things. Now that we know how this project works, it is better to talk about what is a refresh token. In the previous videos, I explained that refresh token is something that stores some credentials and some information on a token, and this token is encrypted. Encrypted means that we can decrypt it. If I generate one JWT, I can go to jwt.io, paste it there, and you will see the values there. But what if another user or a hacker find this token and start using it? For making our site more secure, we are not going to let this token be alive for more than 60 minutes, for more than an hour. Honestly speaking, in the project that I'm working in, some of them, the expiration time for the tokens are less than half an hour. But should we ask end users to log into the server every half an hour or every an hour? I guess it is not a good user experience. Then how can we make it a bit more secure? Imagine that we have a mechanism that we are issuing one token for the user, and the token will be expired every 15 minutes. But we let the users to create another token without sending the username and password to us. This mechanism is called Refresh Token. This refresh token should be called by the client side or the consumer of the service, which means that if you want to refresh the token, the client side application or the other API, which is calling your authentication API, should realize that they are not authenticated anymore by getting the first unauthorized response and send a request for the endpoint that we have for generating the new token based on the refresh token. For being more secure, we want to have an expiration date for the refresh token as well. Because if you generate a token and let developers to use a refresh token for the rest of their lives, what will happen? It is not secure anymore because eventually someone may have access to that token and refresh token. Okay, enough with these introductions, and let's see how can we do that. First of all, the thing that we need is to create a refresh token and send it back to the user when the user is going to log in. We are returning login result to the users. Let's go to the login result. Login result inside the models. And just add one string, which is refresh token. We are going to return not only token, but also refresh token to the users. And now it is time to generate this refresh token. Let's go to the login method. In the response, I have JWT token. Let's create the refresh token. I want to have a refresh token inside the response user, inside the login response, and generate a refresh token and place it here. Let's create a method for this one. This is my method, and I just need to generate one refresh token. The refresh token is just some meaningless numbers that we generate them randomly and send them to the client. Here, I created a random number, which is an array of 64 bytes. I'm using the random number generator that create this number generator and getting the bytes out of that and create one string based on the 64 byte array. Now we have refresh token here and sending it back to the user. Let's test it and see what happened. For testing that, I'm going to run .NET watch. But before doing that, because I don't have the database for this project yet, I need to create it. I placed one README file here about how to generate the migration and update the database. You need to have Entity Framework installed on your application and on your machine. Let's do it. I'm going to create, let's use the README file that I have here. First of all, I'm going to create it should show the preview when I'm clicking on it. I'm pretty sure. Preview. No preview. Nice. Yeah, miracles of Microsoft. Let me just copy these things, which is .NET Framework, Entity Framework, Migration, and add a migration with name initial. It is going to build my application and after that create it for me. And after that, after having the migration, I have the migration files here right now. I just need to update my database based on the connection string that I have, it is going to create a database for me and push all the migration information that I have to the server. If I go to SQL Server and refresh my database, I will see that now I have my ASP server identity-based database, which is nice. We don't have any user, then first we need to register a user. I created a Thunder client request set, or what do you call it, the collection set of the requests. You can use Postman, you can use Swagger, but I prefer to use Thunder client. In one of my videos that I put the link here in the up right side or up left side, I'm not sure, I'm going to place it, that how can you generate this request using this Thunder clients and Postman. When you log in, you can just create a variable, read it from the server, place it inside the variable, and after that just use it. Okay, let's see. Before running the application, let me go back to the out service that I have and let me check. This token will be expired in a minute, 60 seconds. And inside the program.cs, I'm going to remove this one. I haven't explained it. It remained here from the preparation that I had for this video. I'm going to explain it, don't worry. And let's run the application using .NET Watch. .NET Watch is a command which is building the application, running the application, and if I change anything, it is going to rebuild the application behind the scene and I can use it without any delay. This is the request I created to register a user. It is going to send a request to this address. How do I know that what is the port? For checking the port, you can always go to properties. Inside the properties, we have a launch setting application, and in launch setting application, the profile, the first one, which is not IIS, which is not IIS Express, you need to check it, and the application URL. Here it says it is going to run it on localhost and on port 5092. Thunder client again, send it. It says successfully done. If I go back to my database, go to the users and just select it, I will see that I have an admin. There is no password here, which is good for us because the password is secure and it is going to be, it's not encrypted. It is going to create a hash out of that, which means that even if we want as developers to somehow reverse engineering that and get the real password out of the hash that we have here, it is not possible because hash is a one-way algorithm. When you hash something, you cannot reverse it. Encryption is two-way algorithm, which means when you encrypt something, you can decrypt it. We will explain it a bit later in another video that I'm going to create about how JWT works and how to use public key and private key for JWT. Fine. Again, back to the Thunder client. If I can find it. If I log in, the body is username admin and password is 123. If I send a wrong username and password, it is returning unauthorized. But if I send the correct one, it will generate a token and refresh token for me. What I need to do right now, I'm sending a refresh token to the consumers of my service, which means that when the token itself is expired, this refresh token will help them to automatically generate another token. But I said it is a good idea to have an expire date for this refresh token, which is maybe 1 day, maybe a week, a month, 6 months, but it is better than not having it and let them to use this refresh token forever. This is the first thing that I need to implement. And the second thing, I need to save this refresh token for each user inside the database to be sure that this refresh token is valid and it is something that I generated for them, and send it to the client. Let's start with the second one first by adding this information to the database. Let me close everything and go to the context. This is identity DB context. I don't have any DB set, which is weird. If I see the implementation, I can see that we have some DB sets here by default, if I can find them. Roles, user roles, claims, and so many other things like identity users. This base class, it has some tables, it has some DB sets. But what if I want to store some more information to some tables? As an example here in this table, if I want to store the refresh token here to check it every time and see if the refresh token that user is sending to me is the correct one or not. For doing that, I have to create a model, and let's call it extended user identity. And in this extended identity user, and in this extended identity user, I'm going to inherit from the identity user, which is the default implementation for the user in ASP.NET Identity. We need to have two more properties, refresh token and an expiration for the refresh token, and we are going to save them inside the database. Fine, but how to do that? For doing that, I need to go back to the out demo DB context and add them here. The reason that I'm not typing here and pasting everything here is that I prepared it behind the scene and in advance, and just for the sake of saving time, I'm not going to type them and just paste them here. And don't worry, I'm going to put this code on my GitHub repository that you can find the address inside the description. Now we need to tell the identity that we need to tell to the Microsoft identity that instead of using identity user, you have to use extended identity user. Let's go to the program.cs. In the program.cs, when we injected add identity, we said use identity user, but now we want to tell them use extended identity user. And don't forget to go to the alt service. Inside the alt service, when you created user manager from the type identity user, now you need to tell them it is not from the identity user. Just change everything to extended identity user. Now we can just create another migration and after that update the database. Or I can remove the migration that I have, go just here, delete the database using this command, .NET EF database drop. If I run it, it takes time, but it is going to drop the database for me, and I can create a really fresh, clean database from the beginning. Okay, it throws an error. It said that it couldn't build the application. Let me build it and see what's wrong with it. Okay, there is nothing wrong with my application because I have it on watch. It doesn't let another build to get complete. I just press Ctrl+C to break this break this run and watch, and let's run it again. Here I can run it again easily using drop. It is going to start building, build, drop the application. Yes, I really want you to drop it the server, and create another migration. See the folders here. Yeah, migration is here. And now I want to update the database. Database is getting updated. Perfect. And now let's run .NET Watch again. Go to database, run it. The table is clean. Go to Thunder client and send this request. Go to table again. Let me see. Okay, why I cannot see the fields here? I guess it is because I need to press a star, because when I right clicked on this table and said select the first 1000 rows. It generated the number of the columns for me. Now I can see, I should be able to see the refresh token. Come on. I should be able to see it. Yeah, this refresh token and refresh token expiry. I was looking for it at the end of the list of the columns, but it was here. Good for me. Let's go back and see how it works. I need to make another change as well. Let's go to the Visual Studio and to the out service. Let me put it here. All unexpected things happen when you're recording a video. Fine. This refresh token is generated, and now we need to save it inside the database. I got this identity user from the database and check the password. Now I just need to add this refresh token value to the refresh token field that I have and set that for 12 hours from now, this refresh token will be expired, and then update the user. Let's save it and see if it is done. Yes. Now if I click on login, it is going to log in, generate a refresh token which starts with 4O and ends with EQ ==. Let's go to the database and check it. I have a refresh token which starts with 4O and ends with EQ ==. And after 12 hours, which is the 4th of February 2024 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Why it is 1 o'clock in the morning? Sorry, because it was 12 hours, not 24 hours. 1 o'clock in the morning, it will be expired. Very nice. Let's start with creating the model that user should send us with token and refresh token. Let's call it the refresh token model. I'm really bad with names. You can see that. And it should have JWT token and a refresh token. Now I can go to the controllers, and inside the controllers, just create this controller here. This controller, it accepts the refresh token. The name is refresh token, and you can call it by sending a request to refresh token endpoint. It is using a refresh token service in out service. Let me generate it. Yes, I have it here, and go to the out service. In out service, I should implement it as well. I need to have a method called refresh token. It has an error because it says that you need to return something. Okay, fine. What do I need? First, I need to go to the database, find this user, and get the refresh token value and the expiry date for the refresh token. For going to database and finding this user, we need to have access to the username of this user. How can I have the username of this user? Okay, let me show you a thing. Let me go to JWT.io. Here I can paste my token. I can find the token here in Thunder Client and paste it there. I have my username as name inside the payload of the token. And I can show it here, show it to you here as well. When we generated the token string, this one is refresh token. When we generated the token string, we pass the username and place them inside a claim which is called name. How to get the claim out of a token? For getting a claim out of a token, we need to retrieve the principal, user principal. If you don't know what is user principal, go to the first video that I have for authentication and authorization using ASP.NET 5 that I put the link here or there on the right or left, I'm not sure. Then let's generate a method for get token principal. Inside this method, I just need to get the security key that I have inside the application.json, which is just a random GUID. create a validation token. This validation token parameter should be exactly the one that we create, that we pass here, and that we are checking here. These validation parameters here, yeah. And then we should just return JWT security token handler and validate token. We do have a token. Yeah, let's call it token. And it is going to, based on the validation, it is going to return the result, and result should be claim principal. If I can find it, it can be null as well. Let's make it nullable. We have the principal here. Let's see what do we have inside this principal. Principal dot identities. Let's go to identity because I don't have more than one identity. I have just one identity, and here I have a name that I know that I placed username inside the name. Now that I have the name, I can just send a request to the identity server and get the user. Before that, let me just generate the response that we are going to return and do some checks and get the user information from the server. We are checking if the principal is null, or identity is null, or name is null. Just return the response, which in this response, as you can recall, the is logged in is equal to false. And then it is going to retrieve the identity user using user manager.findUser by name async. Let's don't think about the conditions that we are going to generate this token for now and just generate the token. How should I generate the token? Really easy. Exactly the way that we generate the token and refresh token for the logged in. I'm going to copy it from here and paste it there. Easy peasy. The user, we have it, then the login should be true. JWT token, we are going to generate a JWT. Refresh token, we are going to generate a new refresh token. We are going to update the refresh token inside the database and update the expiry date for this specific token and refresh token, and update the user. Okay, great. Now we have a refresh token mechanism, but how about the conditions that I said? The condition that I usually check for issuing a new token and refresh token is something like that. First, I will check if the user still exists inside the database or not. Imagine that 4 hours ago, I generate a refresh token and a token, and user got deleted or got disabled in that time. Then if a request comes from that user, it is not valid. The refresh token that I have inside the database, if it is not equal the refresh token, if it is not the same refresh token that I'm receiving, okay, then it is not valid anymore. This is not valid. This is not valid. And if the refresh token expiry date is later than the current date, I'm going to return the response. And for now, response is logged in is still false. It shouldn't be UTC because I just used now, but in most of the projects, I use UTC now. Because if your application is going to get executed in more than one region, more than one time zone region, it might get confusing if you generate refresh tokens in different time zones. Then create a standard, and the standard should be the UTC one. Fine. Now we have everything. Let's go back to the controller. Inside the controller, it says that we still have some issues. Let me see what issues do we have. It is a task. This task should return. Let me see what we are returning here. Login response. Fine. And now if I save everything and go here, .NET Watch, because we added a file, we need to say yes, rebuild it. It is going to rebuild everything for me. And now I can go to my Thunder client again and generate a new request and save it here in my collection for refresh token. Let me do it. New request. The new request name is refresh token or something like that. It should be post method. It should be post method, correct. And what should it send? Let me check the body. There is no shame in not knowing what should you send there. Let's use Swagger. In Swagger, it says that you have to send JWT token and refresh token. Thanks, Swagger. But how can I get this JWT token and refresh token? If I go to login, I will see that I am passing the JSON JWT token to a variable called JWT token. Fine. Go back to the refresh token and replace it with this one. The color changed to blue. And I need to create another one. It should be set variable environment JSON.refresh token. And the variable name is refresh token. Fine. Let's save it. Go to the refresh token and paste it here. If I just run it again, hopefully I will see that it is loading everything for me. If I click on this button for showing the code and click on shell from the codes, it is showing me that what it is going to send to the server. It is going to add this JWT token and refresh token, and the values are things like that. The refresh token starts with J4, ends with WA. Let me check it. Go to login, J4, WA, and the token should work because it was working previously as well. Let's close everything, go to login again, send a new login request. Inside the refresh token, oh shit, I forgot to save it. Let me create it. I just paused the recording and generate it again and press Ctrl S to save it because I don't want to do it anymore. It says unauthorized. Let me see what is happening. Send another login and see the refresh token, and this one is correct and it is returning an unauthorized error. Let me check the code and see what is that. I will pause it and explain it to you later. Let me think. The first time that I ran it, it says successful, and after that said unauthorized. Let me log in again. We are creating JSON web token and refresh token and storing them inside a database. Now, if I just send it, it says okay, and it is going to generate the JWT token and refresh token for me. The next time that I try to send it, it says unauthorized, which is correct. Why? Because it is trying to use this JWT variable and this refresh web token variable, which we set when we are logging into the server. Then here I need to go to test again, copy it from here and go here and paste it. And it is from environment again. It is JSON web token. Now that the variable names are correct, let's see the name here, which is JWT, and here it is refresh token. Let's save it. And now if I log in again and go to refresh token and send it again and send it again and send it again, it will work for us. For testing it, I created another controller here. Where is the controller that I have? Let me find my controllers. Oh, I placed this identity user in a wrong place. Let me move it here. Yes, and it just fixes Visual Studio's wise enough to fix this namespace as well. Great. I have a test controller and I have an authorized test controller. Test endpoint and authorized test endpoint inside the test controller. For this one, the first one, you don't need to authenticate, but for the second one, you need to be authenticated. We can test them and see what will happen. Now it is getting a bit funny. Let's log in again. Let's go to the authorized test and unauthorized test. Okay, both of them are returning status 200. It is because the token is still valid. But what if I change the token validation period? Come on. Token validation period to 20 seconds or 10 seconds. Let me change it to 20 seconds. Now that we know how to generate JWT token, how to generate refresh token, how to use it, how to call it, everything, it is time to show you a small corner case that JWT is going to surprise you. The first time that I saw it, I spent a lot of time, maybe a day, just investigating online. How should it be fixed and how is it even possible? For showing that to you, I need to change something. I have this test controller, and for the authorized endpoint, instead of just returning OK, I'm returning this one. I'm checking authorized header, getting the HTTP context, request, and authorization header. If I don't have it, I will say that no, not yet. It is not valid in this case because we have authorized attribute here. Let's get rid of this if. I don't want this part as well. I will explain it again. I'm showing authenticated, new line. And then here, the token that we have, I'm extracting it from the authorization header. Remove the bearer, replace it with nothing, and after bearer we have the token. Using JWT security token and passing the token, which is a string, we can decrypt it. And by decrypting that, I mean everything that I had and I placed inside the JWT can be retrieved here. Let's check it. JWT dot I can have access to issuer, subject, everything. One of the properties that we have is valid to. Valid to means that what is the expire date for this token? You might ask a question that for we have the claims here. Why for generating refresh web token you just bother yourself to create the identity principal? Honestly, I don't know, maybe for learning purposes, or maybe I trust that more. I'm not sure. It is just an old practice that I do in the JSON web token. This JWT, I'm just going to print out the expire date based on that, and then the local time, and let's change it to now, not UTC. Great. And let's check it. If I go here, it is running. If I come here and log in, before that, again, let me show you that after 20 seconds, this JSON web token should not be valid anymore. Let me log in, go to authorize, test, send. Okay, great. The time, the expire date is 1:30 and the time is 2:22. Oh, I need to change it back to the UTC because I live in not in Amsterdam, but I live in the Netherlands, and we have 1 hour difference between here and UTC because JWT worked based on Linux time, and Linux time is based on UTC. Then I need to leave it as UTC, but it is not my point here. My point is, of course, it is 12:55. Refresh it, is 13:35. It is more than 20 seconds. How is it possible that it is still valid? The answer is, and I found it in JWT documentation some years ago when I faced this issue for the first time, that they decided to ignore, not really ignore, but extend the lifetime of the token by 5 minutes. Which means that if you say that this token should be valid for an hour, it will be valid for an hour and 5 minutes. If you say that it should be valid for 10 seconds, it will be valid for 5 minutes and 10 seconds, which is funny. But for testing that, how can we get rid of this? 5 minutes? Let me go to the program.cs. Can you remember that we had something here, Clockskew and time span 0, and I said, let's remove it for now. And at the end of this video, you will see that how to use it. When we set it to 0, we say that 5 minutes that you said in your documentation, forget it. I'm wise enough, I can make decision for myself. You don't have to make decision on my behalf. And let me see if it is run again, because I changed something inside program.cs. I need to run it again. And now it throws an error because the application was not up and running yet, but now it says unauthorized. Good. Let's try it again. Log in. I'm logged in. I can have access to this one until 44 seconds. Now it is 26 seconds. 34, 36, 38. Come on. 40, 42, 43. And now it is unauthorized just by changing that. Let's test our refresh token by sending the refresh token. Go back to the authorized test, and now it works again. Okay, great. It was all about how to implement refresh token for your web application. But be careful, because you implement that one on your web application, but the consumer, the client side of this service, this authenticate server, is responsible to get the unauthorized response from the server and realize that, okay, I have a token and refresh token. Now it is time to send a request to the refresh token endpoint using the token and refresh token and request for another one. There are some ways that you can do it from the server, but yeah, it is out of the scope of this video. Maybe we can talk about it later. If you say that you need it, do not forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Keep watching to my channel, because I'm going to post another video next week about JWT, how it works behind the scene, and another one about how to have public key and private key and not share this secret with all the clients if we have more than one server which is using the JWT, and just send the public key with them and secure the private key in the server. Then do not miss it. Keep practicing and enjoy your life as a developer.